say 7, y'all say days. Hunting for the cheese like a mouse in a maze. Been down all my life, mama thought it was a phase. Same OG, guess I'm stuck in my ways. Last night I had a dream.
Welcome to Neutral Voices, the place where your voice matters. And this is our Wednesday live segment.
Yes, man.
Where we
live.
what do we do? What's live?
We live.
Where
we laugh. We inspire.
inspire.
We vibe and we
Oh, we got it. That's right.
Hey, you been studying, Clarence?
Yeah, where
Right.
we laugh, inspire, vibe, and educate. And tonight is all about educating.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yes, we're going to talk about poverty. Hey, and it's a lot to talk about. So to start off, we have a video. So watch with us.
November 2020, the poverty rate in America grew from 9.3% to 11.7% in the span of 5 months due to the unemployment from the coronavirus pandemic. That's 38 million Americans in poverty and growing daily. To put that into perspective, America has more impoverished people than the entire population of Canada, Poland, and Afghanistan. We are the 11th richest country in the world, with Qatar being at number 1. The country that has the highest poverty rate and also is the poorest country in the world is South Sudan, where 82% of the population is living impoverished. That's 36 million people that live daily that can barely afford food to eat. According to the Washington Post, life in South Sudan is miserable. The average monthly income is $6 a month. And due to the high import rates on the food that's delivered to South Sudan, it is often too expensive to purchase. A half gallon of milk is $2.70, almost half of the monthly income for an average Sudan citizen. We have to consider Sudan has been in a civil war for over 5 years, which has played a major factor into their poverty rate. But what factors contribute to the poverty rate in America? Poor education, inflation, wage inequality, or discrimination? In my opinion, these things can be fixed and can reduce the poverty rate in America. Why hasn't it been done?
Oh my goodness.
Yes, yes.
See, that's the heartbreaker.
Yeah.
And I tell you, and I am guilty. There's been times that I've seen videos, about the homeless or impoverished
Yes.
in third world countries, and I just I can't bear to look at it. I mean, there's been times that I've been moved to do something, and of course, then you make your donations. But I have to admit that I do know of people that they will actually turn the channel and turn a
Well,
blind eye to
something that boggles me, I mean, it is really hard to watch, but that so many people have this mindset that they can watch that and say to themselves, this is not my problem.
Yes.
Yes.
How
that's
do you
true.
watch this and say that this doesn't affect me? This is not my problem.
People do it all
Yes.
the time.
Well,
Absolutely.
You have to look at it this way. A lot of people that says that it does affect them because they are at that poverty line themselves.
Yes.
And
So
then-
you saying they looking at it thinking,
And I need help myself.
Yes.
I mean, you have to understand everybody is not financial able to pass out money. It's just most Americans are living
Most people,
paycheck to
are not.
paycheck.
Yes.
38 million Americans are not in a good situation,
Yeah.
according to the video, according to the study.
Yeah. And the problem with the Sudan is, and it was mentioned in the video, but there's a lot more to it, is that those donations that we give a lot of times,
Don't
there are
get to 'em.
government restrictions, there's government mishandlement,
Mm.
and it doesn't reach the people that really, really need that money. So they're keeping them in poverty by the government because there's some kind of political war, fight for political structures over there that's been going on forever, and it's just detrimental to the people over there.
Imagine paying a third of your monthly income for something as simple as a gallon of milk.
Gallon of-
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think about that in your own reality, that's crazy.
And that's what, did I hear it correctly? Was it $6 a month?
$6 a
Right.
month.
Yes.
I mean, I just can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
You know? And so, and I get it, E, when you say that a lot of people watch that and they're not really concerned from that perspective because they're thinking about their own
Their
personal
own. Yeah,
issue,
they have
their
their
own
own.
harm.
And it's bad. It is not good. Well, I'm not saying it's not good, but you have to sometimes think about yourself and your own surroundings before you can reach out to others.
I know, but that compassion, I mean, when you just have it naturally, you just find yourself giving to everything. And,
Yeah.
you know, you just keep giving and giving and giving. And then one day you do realize that, hey, I got people in my family or people that I'm looking at that I'm in contact with every
On a
day,
daily
dealing
basis.
with
Right,
these-
right,
these
right.
Dealing with the
things.
same issue.
Really
So
just-
bringing it home, but I do, you know, I do like the fact that for us, Neutral Voices, that we're bringing it to the surface
Yes.
and making people aware of those conditions, if not for any other reasons, for you to say it could be worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
right,
why,
right.
you know, I think sometimes it's good to even see that because it reminds you when you're complaining about living check to check that your
Mhm.
circumstances could be worse.
Always.
That's why
Yes,
we're
yes,
talking
yes.
about
Always.
poverty, not just in America, not globally, but even poverty right here at home.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
right at home.
Right at home.
Mhm. So, man, we do have another video. I'm not sure if we're gonna talk a little bit. So let's talk a little bit.
Yes. Let's get
Um,
into this.
Yes.
Let's
So,
dive in.
so you know what? Let's start off with the definition, and we know people understand the definition of poverty, but just so that we're clear, because you know how words have a lot of different meanings.
Right.
So let's just give the definition of poverty, and I'll give this particular one. And I'm sure, you know, you guys have other definitions. So let's just share. This definition is the deprivation of capabilities that gives one freedom to choose a better life, good health, and better neighborhoods, better place to live. That's
Mhm.
one definition of poverty. Anybody have another one?
Poverty is defined in the U.S. by a household or person who does not have the financial means or the ability to maintain a regular daily life standard. Now, it's defined actually by the guidelines that they set annually. There are poverty guidelines that are set annually. And poverty is one of those floating definitions because there's other things that play into poverty that changes what poverty look like year to year in the United States.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Yeah.
also just the poverty perspective. You know, what I think is considered poverty level may not be poverty level, you know, to another person. So there's a whole different perspective, you know, depending on situation.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is so it's
broad.
It's so
It's broad. Yeah, it's
broad.
big.
The topic is broad. It is I mean, there's so many different angles. The other short definition is the lack of access to wealth
Yes.
and the
Yes,
necessities that we need.
Yes. Yes.
Simply put.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, and I just had a thought when Jill was speaking, and E spoke of it earlier. And we look at poverty different.
Mhm.
And you know, I love music. And the one thing, we can look at somebody and think they're better off, but in their mind, they're still impoverished. Outkast, in a line in the Outkast song, it says, this guy say, I know you got a lot of money. But he says,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. What you're
I
saying.
live by the beat.
I live from check
If
to
you
check.
don't move your feet, then I don't eat. It's like you living from check to check.
Okay.
So, I mean, everybody got to think about, you know, poverty is a big thing. It's not just, you know, and so with wealth, when you say wealth, we think of I might be rich, but I'm not wealthy, so I'm still in poverty.
Right. Yeah.
Let's
Because
be
with
real.
wealth-
Yeah,
Let's
you're
be
right.
real.
And
You're
I was
right.
gonna say, because when I think of wealth, I think of wisdom.
Yes.
You know, because people get money and they get riches, but you know, they lose it fast if they don't have that wisdom to know
Right.
To how to maneuver it.
how to maneuver it.
Yeah.
So just so we can get into it, because there is so much to this, I want to start off talking about the different types of poverty.
Mhm.
And so, because there's so many angles, I'm just gonna put it maybe three I'll touch on. And one is generational
Mm-hmm.
poverty.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
There's spiritual poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's situational poverty. And
Yes.
so, not like what we just looked at and witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that these three types of poverty are experienced a lot more than you think, right? In your families.
Yes.
On a
yes,
regular
yes,
basis.
Yes. Yes.
So, with generational poverty, let's talk about that real quick.
oh,
So,
man.
generational poverty, you're born into it.
You're born into
And
it.
so, this person and that person, and you
Right.
saw them do this, and this person
Right.
begot this person that did this. So when you think about generational poverty, what comes to mind? Anything you can put your finger on right now?
Let's go with the wealth disparity and the wealth gap. Many African Americans are still in poverty from generations that's passed. African Americans could not own land. They could not work at certain jobs. They could not do a lot of things where other races had those abilities and opportunities. So that put us like 3 generations behind in poverty. And it's hard to, generationally come when you don't have that generational wealth. Some of the Rockefellers, some of the, the people that founded the countries are still living off that old money.
That's true.
Yeah.
But Clarence, right now, when you say that somebody that they're right there waiting to attack, that's an excuse. They don't want to hear that.
But that's a
That's-
true fact.
That's a true
That's
fact.
a true.
That's not an excuse. That's a true
That's
fact.
a true fact. And just like back in the day with the what was it, the sharecroppers
Yes.
economy.
Yes.
And so you're working and you're working and you're
And you're
grinding.
giving 40 to
and then you
50% of your
that's what I was
income to
gonna
the
say. At the
person
end
that you
of the
rent
year,
from.
Yeah.
You still owe more to the plantation
Yes.
than you earned in the cotton crop for the
Yes.
whole year.
Well,
Yes.
and I'm glad that you touched on that as far as the generations, because it also becomes the norm to that person. If you grow up in a situation, in a household, how you live is what you learn.
That's right.
What you learn is how you live. You carry that on. You believe that it's almost normal behavior. This is the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, a lot of that is because of a lack of education.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
now you about to go down a whole nother direction because
mean,
you're
just-
right. That's 100 right there.
it's real because if my mama or my father
Mhm.
don't know how to do X, Y, Z, how can they teach me how to maneuver my money?
I was
All
going to say
they
just
know-
starting with reading.
Yeah, all they know is go to work, pay your rent, pay your light bills. They don't know anything about working in the stock market. They don't know anything about investing. They don't
Yes.
because
You're
they
right.
just know what their parents told them.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So if they only know what their parents taught them, they can only teach me what they know.
yes.
That's right.
And-
So we can't blame.
We can't blame that. We
You can't-
just we have to learn how to
Grow
reach out
past it.
and reach out and learn how to get where we need to get to.
And I believe that I believe somebody else is going to touch on this, but just because you mentioned that, when you say that, the parent that doesn't know better,
Right.
Can't do better.
right? And so
Can't teach better.
so to the parent, and you may not know better.
Yeah.
There's things out there, and we're going to be talking about that a little later. This is Neutral Voices. And so thank you for being with us. Please leave comments and questions as we continue to discuss poverty.
Yes, yes. It's big. It's big.
I believe we have, do we have a comment? What do
Yes.
we have? Okay. So, Jill, you want to read that?
Sure. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden will be the first candidate in history to raise $1 billion from donors. His campaign brought in a record-breaking $938 million through October 14th, riding Democrats' enthusiasm to defeat Trump. President Donald Trump raised $596 million, which would be a strong fundraising effort if not for Biden's immense haul.
Can we put respect on his name? I don't know when that was, but can we officially today say President Joe Biden? Can we say it? Can we
I
put some
believe
respect on
so.
his
We
name?
have to say
believe so.
President.
Can we
Hey,
say
y'all
President
said
Joe
President Donald Trump, so
Biden?
It'll
But
be-
today is official. Can
Today
we
is
put some
official.
respect on his name?
I'm just reading it in my defense.
I said I don't know when that was dated.
Friends,
It'll
put
be-
a handle on his name. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
And
put a
when
handle
you
on
can
his
raise
name.
that kind of money, You know, and that's how come. And living in America, and we're talking about poverty. We have a responsibility
Okay, I
to
have a
do
question.
better.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, with our monies.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
What do they do with all that money?
Made commercials.
Well, that's the reason
He
I'm
traveled
saying
the
if you
country.
can raise that
If you
kind
could
of
raise
money,
that kind of money just to
so
put on, to have a commercial
Right.
and to
Yeah.
travel
Well,
and to do this
and that's
how
You
what
can
I'm
can
raise that type of
saying.
money
money-
for anything.
Yes.
for anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the question. If
From-
you
All
could
those
raise that
flyers you
kind
got,
of
those
money,
phone calls you got, all that money
Hey,
went to
all that
that.
money, and I bet you they didn't spend half of that money with that stuff.
Well, that's
I'm
what I was
just
getting ready to
saying.
say. So first day he's coming in, and let's see what happens moving forward. So
I'm
we're
just
talking
saying.
about poverty right here in the United States, and so let's just see what happens since we can raise that kind of money.
Yeah.
So because
Crazy money.
guess what? That's one of the ways that we're going to obviously solve the problem
Right.
is
right.
by
right.
coming together and putting our dollars together and our ideals together and all of that. So,
Yes.
so moving forward with that in poverty, we were talking about generational
Yes.
poverty.
And when you were there, and I don't want to just say African Americans because we are behind, but there's a whole generation, a society that is not counted for in the United States, but they're the most impoverished people in this country. And that's the people in the Appalachian region of the United States.
Mm.
If you don't know where the Appalachian region is, it's the mountain area from Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, West Virginia, Virginia, and so forth and on down. Now, can you believe in modern 2021, they still struggle with some of the basic necessities, such as running water, electricity, so that puts them behind in the educational and just living. They are the second most impoverished area in the United States. And they have a great population. And the population in the rural Appalachian, there's 4.15 million people in rural Appalachian. In central Appalachian, it's 8.4 million people. Their poverty rate is, right now in central, it's 17.8%. In rural Appalachia, it's 20.3%. And believe it or not, 90% of them are white people.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I see that's when you need to relocate. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking that, but
But
I
that's the life
understand
where,
that this-
we all say lack of education, lack
I
of knowledge.
know.
That's all they know.
And
That's
that's-
their
I was
life,
gonna
and
say
they're not going to
that's-
move out of that.
that's generational.
Generational.
Yeah.
Wow. They feel secure in that because that is
But that's all they know.
So they,
Yeah.
so they trust it. Okay, so leaving that, not that that's all to generational poverty, but then we have situational poverty. Is that a comment, a video? Okay, do we want to do this video right now? Let's go ahead
Let's
and
start
watch
the
this
video.
video, and then we're going to get into situational poverty.
Intentional poverty is something that most Americans can't imagine would be real. Why would anyone choose to be in poverty? What if I told you the people you have elected may have planned to make your neighborhood impoverished? Let's look at some ways that could happen. Redlining, the systematic denial of various services or goods by the federal and local government done exclusively in minority communities. Underfunded schools, which promote a lower standard of education amongst blacks and people of color. According to a 2017 report by the Anti-Poverty Network of New Jersey, racism is a primary cause of high rates of poverty amongst communities of color. Poverty is the leading cause of crime. With crime comes consequences, often jail time or prison time. Prisons that are often owned privately in a $10 billion industry where the people who may own stock could possibly be your elected officials, and often are. According to the University of Michigan report, $3.5 trillion was spent on the fight against poverty. How much of that could have been spent to eradicate the source of poverty? Racism. I know it doesn't take money for my fellow Americans to be more humane, more compassionate, more empathetic, more understanding. It only requires you to be human.
And we say to our nation tonight, we say to our government, we even say to our FBI, we will not be harassed. We will not make a butchery of our conscience. We will not be intimidated, and we will be heard.
Wow. Powerful.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what? There's so many different directions that we could go in with that video.
Yes.
But it's awesome because it covers a lot of material. And that's what we were talking about. There's so much to this. And so mentioning situational poverty, situations arise right there.
Right.
So with situational poverty, just so we're clear, unlike generational poverty and you're born into it, with situational poverty, something happened.
Right.
Any crisis,
Yes.
it could have been divorce,
Right.
Yeah.
a car accident, a
Cancer.
natural disaster, things out of your control.
Medical bills.
Loss of
Sickness.
job.
Yep.
You know, I mean, just
Yes.
small things that drive.
Yes.
Small things. And when I talk about the family structure breaking down,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was mom that left or dad that left,
Yes.
that can break the family down and
Yes.
cause situational poverty.
Absolutely.
Now you went from what, 2 incomes to
To
one.
to one, trying to make things happen.
Right.
And so when we start thinking about family and poverty, Jill, what do you have for that?
As far as I'm glad you bring up situational poverty, because a lot of times we do what I call fall into poverty. But at other times, poverty for some, especially the Black community, poverty is a trap set purposely by the government to keep families, to keep communities in a certain place.
Mhm.
So some people fall there. Other people are placed there from the
Yes.
time that they are born.
Yes.
You are in the poverty trap. So I mean, I also think that it's quite sad, especially when we're looking at all the numbers and millions of dollars. But still, the government places people in a spot that they know it's almost impossible to get out of. You know, and as far as families, things like that, this is a trickling effect. I'm just going to bring up an example of something quickly that happens at my business. I had to file eviction on a woman. Her 10-year-old son came up to my office with the eviction papers, and he asked me where they're going to live because his mom's car already got taken away. Now they're getting kicked out. So a 10-year-old boy who should be playing football with his friends
Yes.
wanted me, a stranger, to explain to him where they were going to live.
Yes. Yes.
And to me, that is heartbreaking. So it trickles down, and now this becomes the norm. If they have to live in the car, this becomes the norm. This is a one-parent household with some other parent issues. But to have a child dealing with something like this worry, going to school,
Yeah.
worry and carrying the burden, what do you think is going to happen when he grows up?
And then guess what, Jill? That can lead to, when you talk about the traps, that video also showed, I saw the guys in the orange.
Yes.
And we know,
Absolutely.
we start talking about the prison system.
Right.
Yes.
And so
Right.
some of the traps happen because just as simple as you get a ticket.
Right.
You go to pay the ticket, but there's these other fines and fees attached. You didn't have enough. They give you 30 days to make the payment. And, now you're late. You got more late fees. And then eventually you get caught up in the system because you can't afford to pay whatever that fee is. And so just like with Khalif Browder,
Yes. Browder.
so just like his situation or Sandra Bland, and you know, all of a sudden you find yourself, you're back up against the wall
Yes.
because you can't pay
Can't
Right.
pay.
whatever that
And-
fee is. And as they say, you can't pay to be free
Right.
almost.
right,
So
right.
it's like you got to pay to stay.
Yeah.
If you can't pay, you got to stay, or however it works.
However
you
it
going to
works.
jail.
Yes.
And the way
once
the
that
system-
happens, you're in the system.
the system is designed, we speak about it being broken, but we've talked before that it's working
not
exactly how
exactly
it's supposed
like
to.
it was planned.
So you've got the poverty trap that a black man was purposely placed in from birth. So it's not about
Yes.
landing there, it's about getting out
And
of
how-
there.
Right.
Then you take them and you put them in situations purposely because
Right.
you're dealing with poverty. So then the father's going to jail. Then the mother is left with the
That's
child.
right.
It
That's
is
right.
a cycle
It's a
that
cycle.
the black community specifically is placed into.
Yes.
That's right.
Can I get a little
Yes,
bit into
yes.
this? Both of you are correct and very well spoken of what you're saying. Also, a trap is the welfare trap.
Mhm.
The welfare trap is in the late 60s, early 70s. They promised single black mothers that if the father was not in the home, we're going to give you food, we're going to give you housing, and we're going to give you cash. But the black man cannot be in the home.
Mhm.
The father can't be in the home. Okay, we get all this free stuff. So all of a sudden, you remove the father out of the home. That's a situational and generational thing because it tends to grow into people's psyche that that's the way it is. But that's how it was set up, that they took the fathers out of the home. And then they promised all this free stuff, but it's the bare minimum to get by.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So that is a situational and a generational thing. The problem is, and as Jill said, the government, and as you said, the government is set up that way because also with child support. Now, I believe child support is more than financial. There's other things that you can support your children, but the financial part, you do have to take your part. But think about it. You want me to work. Now, you got to be smart yourself. You don't have to go out and have, 15 kids by, 7 different women.
Right.
But if you do, that's your choice.
Right.
You have to find a way to take care of those children. But think about it. I know people that have multiple children have great jobs, but they take a good 70% of their income, multiple mothers and things. So they're working to bring home nothing at some points. So then again, so you expect them, but then they get behind because they have bills. So they're not paying something, they have bills. That's when the court come in. You have the
Here
court
they
costs.
go. Going
And
to
things
court.
like that. So you end up in that same cycle as
The
you were saying.
same
I mean, so yeah, these systems are
Well,
designed.
Clarence, so, with you saying that, what makes them think that you can pay the child support if you're locked up in jail and now you
Well, not only locked up in jail. In Indiana, I don't know any other states, but Indiana, they can suspend your driver's license so you
and
can't
that's
go to
what I
work.
was gonna
And
say.
they can suspend if you have a professional license.
They can take your-
They can take your professional license. So how then are you to maintain and provide? So yes, those are some of the traps that keep people in poverty. Because if I'm a barber
I was gonna say
and I got a
like-
barber's license,
That's
and
right.
I'm hustling. Right now, COVID is hitting everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
right now, I can't cut hair like I normally do. So I'm falling behind. So you just think that I'm not paying. So now you coming at me for being derelict and not paying, but now you're gonna take my driver's license. I can't get to my shop, so I got to figure out another way of getting to my
That's
shop.
right.
Now,
and
that's
that's what I'm
an
saying.
extra
So it's
expense.
like
So it's a
the
trickle down.
system don't care because they're not going to ask questions.
No.
So most of the time, if they set a fee or they set your bail at a certain amount, they're never asking you if you have any means
No.
of being able to take care of this.
Right.
And and that's why I'm saying what you just mentioned. Here they take your driver's license,
Right.
and then they know you got to get to work.
Right.
So what are you gonna do?
You
You're
gotta
gonna
spend
take a
it-
chance.
yeah.
You're gonna get out there and start driving, and then the second time they take it, the third time, some places they lock you up.
Yes.
Fifth time you got caught without
Yes.
the license
Right, and these
driving. You
systems
going
are
to
not-
jail.
They're not set up for
Yeah.
people to thrive, period. They're
Yeah.
set up to merely survive. Another quick example, you take a 20-year-old girl who has a couple of children, who grew up in the system. She saw the system. She's on Section 8. Her electric bill's getting paid. Everything is getting paid, but you will never have anything else. This is what you'll have. Then a job offer comes along. She goes to the interview. She gets the job. She calls her caseworker. The caseworker said, oh, absolutely not. If you take this job, you're going to lose all this.
Right.
That's
Then
right.
you're going to have to pay daycare. So you've got a girl who wants to do better. Everybody
Yes.
says, well, just get a job, just do
Yes.
better. But the system is not set up for
It's not.
her to
No.
do better.
And you know what? The truth is, it's a cycle that happens.
Yeah.
And so, so unfortunately, and I actually created my own cycle of poverty, and it is the lack of is what I see in the
Right.
center. So it's a lack of education and knowledge, the lack of proper employment, you
Yes.
know, because, you know, sometimes you're working like 3-4 jobs because you're trying to make the right amount of money. But the lack of sometimes the lack of opportunities in your area, your community, the lack of power, feeling like you have enough power to change your
Yes.
situation, lack of health care, lack of hope, the lack of leadership, because sometimes the siblings are raising each other because the
Yes.
parents
Yes.
are working.
Working,
So, you know,
yes.
so there's so much
You know something?
lack in that.
You say that, and it's funny because this is, and I know it's a little off subject, but it kind of ties in.
Uh-huh.
This is why our generation of kids are the way that they are.
Okay.
Because the simple fact you got parents have to work 2 or 3 jobs
Mm-hmm.
to take care of the household, and you got 12-year-old Bobby
That's right.
Yeah.
Raising the kids.
raising the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lack of leadership.
But that's not too far off because that sets them up that they're going to have to do the same thing with their kids, and that keeps the poverty cycle going.
And it keeps the poverty cycle going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so in order for me to wrap my mind around it, because it was so much, I had to create that cycle to be able to understand everything. Because in order for you to make a change and make a difference, you have to understand it.
Absolutely.
And you know,
Yeah.
we don't want to break away or leave this story,
Right.
this episode, without giving some solutions and being able to help people. But again, because it is so much, then I mentioned the poverty, the spiritual poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so when we start thinking about spiritual poverty, there's a couple things I want to mention real quick is you know, if you don't believe
Mm-hmm.
and you're just chasing dreams, but you're never chasing after the plan that God has set before you, and you never actually chase down your purpose and capture your purpose. So right now, Neutral Voices want to remind you that no matter what your situation is, if you find yourself in poverty, one of the things that you have to do is you have to embrace your purpose. You have to know your worth. You have to know that you are valuable and you are here for a reason. And so one of the things that you need to do is seek education. How can you do that if you don't have funds? The library.
Yes. Yes.
The
Huge
public-
resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The public library,
Yes.
because you can go to that library, you can get on the computer, so you're looking up things.
Mhm.
Everybody doesn't have that mindset where you're actually on $1,000 iPhone checking
Right,
the
right.
balance
Well, see,
on
that-
your food
right.
stamp.
Hold on, that's
Now that's
you
that's
say,
poverty mindset.
yeah, you say go to the
poverty mindset.
library. When
Yes.
they do, I was just about to say, most of them do have that $1,000 iPhone.
Well,
And you look up your TikTok, you look up your Facebook, look up how to remove yourself out of your situation.
that's
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
And-
it's easy enough. Just like I said, you on Facebook, TikTok,
There's
all this other stuff.
so much.
And I mean, my biggest thing is if you really need help, is you download the Bible.
Yeah.
That'll give you all your answers
And-
out
and-
the gate.
And I got that. Can I get in on both of
Read
what
the
y'all was
Bi-
saying?
That's
Spiritual
right.
poverty. And we're gonna get out of here.
There's so much.
We're gonna get out of here, but
There's
both
so
of y'all said
much,
something
guys.
profound. You said, learn, have faith, embrace your faith, and get out of your situation. You said download the Bible. In the Bible, it says your gift shall make room for you. What that means is if you have a skill, if you have an ability to do something,
Preach on, preacher.
you can use it. If you're a hair braider, braid hair. If you just cutting grass, your gift makes room for you.
That's right.
There's no job that you should feel because every step is a better step. I understand some of the jobs are low paying, but you got to start somewhere.
You have to start.
You
there.
have to
Amen.
start
You
somewhere.
gotta
You have
start
to be
somewhere.
an advocate for yourself. Don't make excuses because there's always excuses, right?
Yes, there's always
And so
excuses.
I just want to make sure. So I don't want to run through some more, and I know I got to get out of here, but I just want to run through some more just in case. We have to help you. But I talked about studying, but study what a poverty mindset is,
Mhm.
and then study how to break it,
Right.
how to change that. Declutter. Don't be a hoarder. Even in the Bible, the children of Israel, when the people of Israel, when they were they received the manna,
Manna,
they
yeah.
wanted to hoard
Yeah.
the manna and save it. And God said, don't save it.
Mhm.
Trust me,
Yeah.
because I'm going to give you fresh manna.
Yeah.
So trust God. Don't hoard things. Get rid of clutter
That mean
because
people
it'll
too.
free your
That mean
mind.
people too.
Get rid of it and trust that God is going to restore and replenish the things that you have given away. You got to change the energy and the atmosphere. Stay clear of negative people. People will steal your dreams. They are dream
Mhm.
killers. And you have to search deep in yourself and find that dream that was placed inside of you and move on it and trust God. Trust yourself. So be an
just said a
advocate for
mouthful.
self.
Go
And
ahead,
and
Sister
I
Z.
said before to
Mouthful,
know
boy.
your worth. So every day you wake up, you say your affirmations and you say them believing in those words.
Yes.
Words are powerful. Don't speak anything negative. You can change your atmosphere.
Yes.
Man.
Amen.
Poverty
Amen.
adapts to its environment.
Yes.
Change your environment
Yes.
and
Mentally.
stay strong.
Amen.
This
Preach
is Neutral
on, preacher.
Voices. And I believe Jill has something great for us.
Other people are not your problem. The struggles and pain of others, not your problem. Other people's children, not your problem. Whether someone eats or not your problem. A family living without electricity or water, not your problem. None of these things are your problem. They don't affect you until they do. Like Muhammad Ali stated so eloquently, service to others is the rent that you pay for your room here on earth. There isn't a shortage of food. There isn't a shortage of housing. There is an overabundance of so many things. If only love was one of them. It is a terrible thing to sit back and watch someone suffer, knowing there is absolutely nothing you can do to help them. But even worse, knowing you can do your part to help, but don't. We need to ask ourselves who we are as humans when we make a conscious choice daily to ignore the suffering of others. For it is in giving that we receive. As overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity, but an act of justice. When love and kindness conquer all, nobody suffers. It takes a village. We are the village.
Amen.
Man.
Wow. That is so awesome. And all I can tell you guys, thanks for tuning in. And remember, we have to unite in the fight.
We coming back
Poverty.
tomorrow?
And we will be back tomorrow. We're going to be back tomorrow for
Voice of the people.
Voice of
So
the
if we
people.
said
Voice
something,
of the People.
you have an opinion
And
on what
so,
we said?
Yes, thank
You
you.
have an opinion. You
That
have
is the
a
show
resource.
where you talk and your voice matters. So if you have any comments, anything you want to share, any questions, please see us back here tomorrow night, 8:30 for Voice of the People. This is Neutral Voices. Thank you. See you next time.
See ya.
Good night.
When I say 7, y'all say days. Hunting for the cheese like a mouse in a maze. Been down all my life, mama thought it was a phase. Same OG, guess I'm stuck in my ways. Last night I had a dream.